Okay. Time 6:45, and we will resume open session. We're down to item 5.0, approval of the minutes. Director Watson.
Sorry, President, we amended the agenda
Four, I'm sorry. Sorry. You're correct. We're at audience comments.
I got audience comments.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Reagan, which agenda item would you like to talk about?
Not the agenda item, I said audience comment.
Audience comments is for agenda items. If you wish to address the board about something other than agenda items, you have to go through a different process.
Well, according to your policy, Mr. President, according to your board policy, I did fill out your sheet of paper and sent it out and addressed it to all the board. If I wanted to do something with your agenda, I have to send that in 10 days in advance. And anything that one audience comments, I have to send it in 24 hours.
Correct, but it has to be an agenda.
According,
Isn't that correct?
come again.
Point
This
of
is
order.
just regular audience comment.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Point of order.
Yes, sir. May I address Mr. Reagan?
Sure.
Mr. Reagan, we received your form. On your form, it said that you wanted to discuss curriculum, which is on the agenda. Is that what you wish to discuss? Mr.
I
Reagan?
can barely hear you guys. Mr. Watson.
I'm gonna speak up as much as I can, but
Yes, sir.
your form was sent to the board, and on that form, it said that you wish to address curriculum. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's on the agenda. So, Mr. President, if you can give us 2 minutes and we'll go from there.
Okay. So we asked him which item would he like to talk about. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Reagan.
All right. Thank you, members of the board, and good evening. I was looking at some of the things on the curriculum, and I was hoping that maybe since we always are talking about diversity in our urban school district, if we would think about adding Afro-American history to our curriculum so that therefore our children will get that experience to learning all histories, especially in our junior and also into our senior high schools. I hope that is something that the board will take in consideration along with working with the superintendent and the members of his cabinet with adding those courses into our curriculum for our children and students. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else? Any more audience comments?
We do not have any more audience comments.
So now we go to 5.0, approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes from our meeting on April 15th.
I second.
Is there any discussion on the minutes as presented? Seeing no one in objection, I move that we accept the minutes through unanimous consent. All right, 6.1, applause.
Good evening. Good evening, directors. You don't need anything?
Good evening.
So to make sure everybody can hear me on the Zoom.
Doesn't sound like we can hear you.
Yeah.
I think you're.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay, here we go. All right, good evening again, directors. This month, we are recognizing 3 students from Millennium at Santa Fe, and these students were chosen for their over 95% attendance for the 4 years or more while they've been attending Millennium, scoring at or above in assessments, and being a model Mustang. Principal Craig Merkerson says they are a joy to have in the building, and they are all joining us on Zoom. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Merkerson so he can introduce us to each one of these students who are joining us on the Zoom. Dr. Merkerson.
Good evening, everyone. I am super duper excited to present these 3 marvelous students from Millennium. We should have on the call Subahan Khan, Aswalo Rico Cortez, and Leah Hall. And our teachers and staff have some comments about these 3 awesome students, and I'm going to read each of them. Subahan Khan has been a student at Millennium since 1st grade and is known as an outgoing student who is quick to help others. A member of both the Principal Advisory Committee and the National Elementary Honor Society, Subahan is described as a natural leader who thinks outside the box. He has never met a challenge he didn't work to solve and steps up to find creative solutions to both academic and social problems. Subahan's willingness to persevere and be creative have made Millennium a better place. I also have a piece of paper that Subahan gave me when he was a 1st grade student, and I'm going to read it. It says, Dr. Merkerson from Subahan. He's a kind principal. He keeps his shirt tucked in always, and he's an awesome principal. That's one of the reasons that I go to work every day is little trinkets like this from our students. Oswaldo Rico Cortez. He's been at Millennium as well since 1st grade. He's always been quick to smile and be a friend to students and teachers at Millennium. Oswaldo's teachers describe him as a kind, hardworking, and caring student. He is the kind of person who always goes the extra mile, whether it's doing the best on assignments or offering help to others. One of Oswaldo's former teachers says, anytime anyone needs help, he would gladly lend a helping hand. Millennium is grateful for helpful and kind students like Oswaldo. And finally, Leah Hall, my school kid. She joined Millennium in 2nd grade and has been highly regarded by classmates and teachers ever since. Described by teachers as a happy, helpful, and carefree student who has incredible confidence. Leah is quick to tell students and teachers how great they are, even giving encouragement to younger students she sees struggling. Leah is a member of the Principal Advisory Committee and also recently competed in the Prep KC Math Relays. She has made Millennium proud with her academic skills, kindness, and leadership. It's going to be super hard to hard letting these students go next week, but once a Mustang, always a Mustang. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Merkerson. And I would ask if Leah, Subhan, and Oswaldo are on the Zoom, if they could unmute and say hello so we can see you and not just your pictures.
Hi.
You gotta take the screen off.
It's frozen.
Oh, okay.
We'll call them one at a time.
It's frozen. The Zoom is frozen. Congratulations to all 3 of you. And we have a special gift that we'll be sending you. And we are so proud to have you as part of our Mustang family and the Hickman family. So congratulations and keep up the good work to you all. And one more before we go. Paris Smith is the most recent recipient of Superintendent Obing's Above and Beyond Award. He is one of the most active cadets on the JRTOC program, currently serving as the platoon leader and demonstrating amazing leadership through his time at HMC1, helping in any way that he can, whether it be live streaming events, organizing the cafeteria post-COVID return, helping with harvesters, or wearing an eagle costume to boost morale at games. He also recently received the Cadet of the Year Award from the Navy League of the United States, which recognizes him for his great accomplishments within MCJROTC program. Congratulations, Paris, and his proud mom, Giraffe Smith, who are joining us on the Zoom. If we're unfrozen, you can unmute and say hello.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Paris. Congratulations to you once again. And is Mom there to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. She's hiding.
I'm here. Hi.
Mom, congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you, Paris, for the work you've done. And I noticed you at graduation supporting your seniors. So that was good.
Yes, sir.
You did an excellent job there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and congratulations. And Paris got a nice new MacBook. So congratulations to you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, moving on. 7.1, 7.0, 7.1, superintendent's comments.
Thank you, President Townsend and board and community members for coming today. I have a couple of quick updates for you in the comments, and then some information about the upcoming program. First, let me wish all our community members out there who are recognizing and celebrating Asian Heritage Month this month. May is the month for Asian Heritage Month, so hopefully people are taking the opportunity to learn more about Asian culture and wishing people a happy month. And we know that it's not just a month, but this hopefully a start to recognizing throughout the course of the year. I do also want to share a little bit about the curriculum piece. So I think one of the speakers mentioned about some curriculum information in terms of what they wanted in the curriculum. And I was going to talk about some curriculum pieces today, so I might as well share this information. That starting this fall, we're going to have a new course at Ruskin High School, which is called Introduction to Social Justice, African American History. So that will start the beginning of that kind of programming. And at the elementary level, we're piloting a culturally responsive program at one of our schools and trying to develop capacity in those areas. So look forward to that. And those community members who are looking for that kind of course, please contact your guidance officers for information around the curriculum aspects. And you'll see that we are working on trying to be as inclusive as possible in terms of our curriculum. Let me give a quick update about COVID, because I know there's been a lot of information on COVID throughout the last weeks, in particular around schools. I'll let people know out there that all our board members and our senior staff are vaccinated, and therefore, when we congregate, we can remove our mask if you're comfortable in doing that. So if you see some of us without a mask, that means we know that everyone in our room is vaccinated and we are safe. At the same time, we're going to proceed with abundance of caution for the rest of the year. We've got about two weeks left of the school year, and we're still requiring students to have masks on during school. They are not vaccinated, and we've gone this far, 8-9 months of schooling, and I think we can take the caution in 2 more weeks to complete that. So if there are any questions about that, that's where we're going, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to start the school year in green status to be going face-to-face if we continue to practice safe precautions and there's enough people vaccinated. Okay. I'm going to share my, for a sec. I'm going to come on the screen. Okay, I believe last month I gave you an update on towards the future we want, and you received that document I think back in January, and the board received that in terms of the post-analysis and some of the action steps that we're taking for next year. And we've started working on those pieces. So I want to give you a quick update on some of the programming that we have, and I'll have some of our staff come up and join us as we go through that. So today's update is going to be focused around student achievement and also have a financial piece later on today. We'll move on. Wanted to share with you this quick clip, and I might not show it all, but people can find it on our site as well too. But it kind of represents the work that's been happening around connecting students to the real world and real world learning program, and some of the dynamic initiatives that happened this year, even in COVID. So let me see if I can get this. And I guess we need sound too, right?
Yeah, we might show that from back here. Because we're we're gonna get that
Okay.
back here.
Let me do that. We'll stop it. Can you play that, Patricia? Christy, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna move on, and if we get an opportunity, to show that clip, then we'll show it towards the end. Okay, thank you. Move on to the next slide then. Or you back to me. Thank you. Okay, we'll try to share this clip at the end. If you guys want to cue it up, then we can play it at the end of the other slides. So we won't spend too much time. So I wanted to talk about some programming that we're having. I'll ask Executive Director Rowe to come to the camera or jump on the Zoom, whichever makes sense.
Good evening.
Can we hear you?
Good evening.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm excited to share with you tonight Burke Academy, the future we want, some innovative new programming that we're looking forward to offering to our secondary students for next school year for 21-22. So this is just a mock-up visual of essentially some of the new programs that our students have expressed an interest in based on our course enrollment numbers and just some survey data that we've done. So I'll first start down in the bottom right-hand corner with the core micro school. A micro school is basically a school within a school, so anywhere from 15 to 150 kids. We saw this on one of our real world learning trips, but this is an opportunity for students who want a different setting, who want to work with industry mentors in a project-based learning environment. And I think we have a few more slides after this that will highlight more. There in the middle, you can see a makerspace area, a music lab, and then our biomedical sciences program at Ruskin has more than doubled in interest, and course enrollment is bursting at the seams, so much so that we are having to add another full-time Project Lead the Way biomed teacher, and we are out of lab space at Ruskin. So looking at creating a state-of-the-art lab with a bunch of students in their white coats, walking around doing their dissections and working on forensic science. And then up there in the top left-hand corner, one of the highest growing industries, the top 4 sectors here in the Kansas City area is technical fields, construction trades. So really recognizing that number one, that's a need for our labor and industry here in the area. And number 2, recognizing that we do not currently offer any programming at Ruskin for students who are interested in the trade. We do send about 50 students to Herndon Career Center, but that's only open to 11th and 12th graders. And so we feel like we need some better courses at the 9th and 10th grade level to help spark kids' interest so that they can see what are some of the possibilities in those areas.
So I'm just going to highlight a couple of programs, not go through all, but that people know exactly what's happening. The construction trade programs, and I got some good news yesterday or early this morning that DESE is actually looking at the development program for this summer. And we're right in line with what they're looking at. So there might be opportunity to have them give us some support, so maybe join their pilot, but it's really in line with the curriculum pieces that we want. And they're looking also at the junior grades at freshmen and sophomores. So that's going to be very hopeful for us in terms of our next steps. I'll let Ms. Rowe talk to a couple of these slides really quickly. We can get the open space stuff. And this is a good slide to talk to Ms. Rowe.
Yeah, this is our projected course sequence. So starting in January, we will offer a semester-long class titled Construction Trades 1, thinking about it like a teaser course. So something to, kids will spend a lot of time on hand tools before they move on to the power tools. We'll partner with the National Institute for Construction Excellence to offer OSHA 10 certification. So when kids finish that class, they will walk away with that OSHA 10 card. in order to, move on to potential industry after high school. Students who enjoy that time in that semester-long class, then year 2 will go into construction trades 2 there on the right, and it'll be more advanced woods and metals. So really getting into those power tools. And then eventually 11th and 12th grade, we then can send them on to Herndon, a much more prepared student, potentially even being able to expand our programming based on student interest to be able to fit those needs.
Okay, so I'll stop there for construction trade. That was that one program. And I'll have to say that we've gotten really good responses from community partners. I had an innovation committee meeting several weeks ago and asked community partners to see who's interested in supporting us. And we already got some responses of industry individuals that want to offer programs, offer some income, and hopefully get some funding as well too. And we're working with Mr. Lieber at the NICE organization in terms of the coalition of construction trades, and they're very excited at supporting us in this endeavor.
I think our biggest challenge for that will be finding our teacher, because there are no industrial technology certification areas at colleges around here. So DESE is offering alternative certifications. So if you have connections in the community of somebody who maybe is a retired trade worker who wants to consider teaching, send them my way and we can look into the certification options.
Yeah, I would open up for any questions while we have Ms. Rowe here from programs. We are in the infancy of development, and there is more in the slides around the rationale in terms of why. I know we have some data around some of that piece in terms of lack of knowledge of high school students understanding their pathways in these trades, the need in the community and across the nation in terms of people trades, and even in Kansas City, we've got a brand new airport that's being developed, and they know that they already have needs for workers, and we're not producing that in our district. I would open it up for any questions of Ms. Rowe around this programming at this point. And we'll be coming back as we get further down the road, but we've got a lot of excitement.
President. So was there consideration made in regards to and I know that these programs are coming out, and I guess this is for you, Mrs. Rowe, as well as Ms. Rowe, being the aspect of how bond and the work that's going to be done on Burke, is there any accommodations to be made in regards of how this may affect these programs?
So I can't speak specifically to the bond. However, I will say that I've been working really closely with Mr. Weekly on budgeting, and we are able to use some Title IV grant dollars specifically for purpose of basically enriching student opportunities. And so we are able to set aside some funds to go towards machinery. And so Mr. Weekly's been doing all the legwork because that is not my area of expertise. So he's been going to Home Depots and other areas, visiting other schools. We have applied for one of DESE's CTE programs that would potentially provide dollars for the teacher. So our big gap right now is on sort of renovating that space that we're trying to secure some funding for. And as far as the bond dollars, I can't answer that.
I think let me draw this context. You can go ahead and start walking up and answer this question. But more in the sense of as the bond is being addressed, I know that have you addressed what changes will come in the aspect of what changes we're doing with curriculum with our contract?
Yeah, the bond dollar, the projects we have planned for the bond for that particular building will only enhance that. They're not designed specifically for that program, nor will they deter from it. So what we have done, just maybe answer your question, maybe, Hollis and Miller came over a week or two ago, and we toured that specific library area, looked at some specifics, pulled some ceiling tiles down, looked at rooms, measured rooms, that type of thing. Came up with some possible schematics that we need to talk about down the road. They're going to get some initial blueprints probably to me in about a month, begin that process, because we really need a solid plan, and some of the drawings they had were from a former architectural firm, not theirs, and they were not accurate. So we've had some changes. So they wanted to redo field measurements, which they did on site that day. So that way they can go back to the drawing board and kind of redraw that area. The great thing about that area is we have a ceiling height that's appropriate for what we want to do, and that's one of the key factors. It's got outside wall, on almost all three sides, which is great for bringing material in, and ventilation, which will need proper ventilation if you're going to do that kind of program. And the space itself, we got spaces for classroom instruction, storage, even a trim coat area where smell might be, pretty intense. We have a lot of separate rooms like that already built in, which is great for the space. I mean, the space is really ideal for this type of program. It's a lot of it's already kind of set up that way, where you have a separate classroom where the computer lab is, which you know where that is. So you have a lot of it kind of already kind of set up that way, which is really beneficial.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
In entry, but I'm remiss if I say this, we have a remote entry and exit that would only be for those kids, which is great. And we have a locked door already there, plus their own bathroom, which would be great too, because those kids would be traveling back and forth from Ruskin, and they'll be separated from the other group of students that would be there. So it ends up working out great logistically.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sure. Ms. Rowe, can you elaborate a little bit more on the PBL program?
Yes, that's what's coming up next.
Okay.
Okay, if there's any other questions on the construction trades? No? Okay, so one of the other innovative programs we're looking at is called CORE, Great Opportunities for Ruskin Eagles. And we're in the process of developing that. And once again, anyone out there who has connections with community partners, we are looking for individuals or in groups to join and support our students moving forward in any capacity, whether you in kind, your industry expertise, and we certainly will take checks in terms of the program. So I'll get Ms. Rowe to talk a little bit about, let me stop here, or do you want to?
Yeah, this is good. Thank you. So we visited a number of different micro schools across the nation last year before COVID hit as part of their real world learning initiative with the Kauffman Foundation, and we're really intrigued by some of them. Several schools are launching them this coming school year as well. I know Ray Peck has one, Liberty has one, and it was originally written into our 3 to 5 year strategic plan on our real world learning grant. We have accelerated that a bit, and I'll share the one reason why we have accelerated it is we saw a pretty significant number of students who elected at the high school to stay virtual after we came back on our hybrid schedule. So Ruskin has 300-ish students that opted to stay virtual. And in talking with some of those students, some of the reason was I really like the independence. I don't want the hustle and bustle of Ruskin. I don't want the traditional scheduling. I want something more real world learning. We heard that, but in the same hand, we also knew that some of those kids, they needed some adult support, right? Like just being at home by themselves, they weren't persevering through their courses. So we decided we're moving forward. We are going to start this first pilot cohort with up to 50 students in grades 10 through 12. And CORE is really for students who are interested in solving community problems by working on teams. So community partnerships is going to be a huge chunk of their day. We will build in skills and competencies that students will be working on and be able to award credit through that.
Let me share a couple of this. We kind of talked to this already, but why? Let's just stop here and component 4 describes the different partners.
Yeah, there will certainly be an academic or traditional component to the day for students who are there. They still have to, read, write, do math, and learn science, all of those things. However, we want to integrate those skills into these project-based learning opportunities. So we will do one project in this first year every 6 to 8 weeks, and you can see that they're themed around our small learning communities. So for example, if we start the year off with arts and communication being our first project, we will be looking to partner with 3 to 4 industry mentors who are willing to work with students throughout that project timeframe. We've had a couple of the Superintendent's Innovation Task Force members already reach out and say, we're in, doesn't matter what it is or what you need, we're in. Morgan Miller Plumbing right over in Grandview was one of the very first ones to reach out and said, when you get to your engineering, technology, and trades, we want to work with kids. And we want them to pose real world questions to them and for students to persevere through those challenges and see a connection to their future.
I'll stop there. I'm really excited about these opportunities that we're producing for our kids, and they're really connected right to the community, and it gives an opportunity for industry and community members to also support our students, and they can really see why school matters, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to make that connection. So with that, I'll stop there. Are there any other questions on the core program, the micro school program? And we're going to start really small and hopefully build it to something that will have some problems finding space, right?
Mhm.
Any questions, comments from board members?
President. Thank you, sir. So, I was able to see kind of your pilot program, with the PBL, within this last month. I was invited to the school by, Bert's social worker.
Okay.
And we sat in the front of the chair and kind of asked questions in regards to my profession. I don't mind saying it here, in the aspect of mental health, and looked at, and I was able to kind of go back and look at the project and the questions that were being asked. That being said, I really like how it's already just in the pilot that's being used, how it presents. It's better if I speak to the actual aspect of what they were asking me. So, how to actually start therapy, like how to get to a place where you feel comfortable going to therapy when you don't trust the person. And the reason why I draw that point is because this is the alternative program, am I correct? As far as Burke, right now, currently?
Yeah. Yes.
So this is being piloted with the alternative program. A lot of issues are basically behavioral. So in the aspect of what I felt like was that this provided an opportunity for them to actually figure out how they would seek help when they're having behavioral issues. These are the students actually doing the program.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the kind of the pilot and only to expand, this is wonderful. This is offering an opportunity for our most vulnerable students to be able to actually be able to find out how they learn. I want to commend you as well as anyone who had any involvement in this, and Superintendent on being on this core project. I like this is my favorite thing I've seen for a while.
Thank you. I just have to share the pilot that you're speaking about. I have to give credit where credit's due, and we sat down, we being myself and Mr. Allen and Ms. Curtis, Ms. Blunt, and Mr. Beatty at the beginning of April, and said, we've got about 20 seniors that aren't going to make it. Like these kids are really close, but they're not going to make it the way it is right now. And so we said, we threw it out to the kids. We want to pilot this. We've got some questions, some real world questions. We want you to pick which one interests you. We're going to tie it to Missouri Learning Standards so that we can award credit. And they ran with it, and the kids blew it out of the water. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, you saw it firsthand, but it was awesome to hear just the connections that they were making because it was meaningful to them. That's what school is, or should be.
Thank you for that, Mr. Watkins. Let me just make one point of clarification, because I want people to really kind of get this. These are not alternative programs only for vulnerable students.
No, I do that.
No, I want people, so people don't think that it's open for all of our students, and it's an opportunity for enrichment from wherever level you are. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew.
There's a good slide if you go back to, it says what core is not.
Yeah, I saw that. It's not for alternative kids.
Yeah,
yeah.
Letting people know that we're looking at all our students for enrichment opportunities as well as taking actions on the vulnerable students as well.
I appreciate the equitable lens.
Thank you. The last thing I wanted to kind of give you an update on, because I've had a lot of questions around students lacking from this COVID year, and they've had enough instruction to be where they are, and how do we start closing that gap? And I think that gap starts right in June in the summer. So we put a challenge out to our staff, and Ms. Kelly Washington. Kelly, are you on the Zoom?
I am.
All right, excellent. So Kelly led the charge, and we put a challenge to her to create a summer school program that One expands from June all the way to August. Traditionally, we just did July, and we want to go through the entire summer and offer as many engaging opportunities as we can, trying to get as many kids to be engaged in summer school, and then start working on the academics, but also the dynamic and social emotional pieces. So when we start in September, August again, we can take it from there and move forward. And it rose to that challenge. So I just want to let the board know that we are addressing the issue of the COVID slide, in terms of students getting back, and a couple of slides here. And I'll get you to make a couple of quick comments, Kelly, when we get to the appropriate slides here. So Kelly, you want to go ahead and talk about what's new this year as opposed to traditionally the past that'll help address where we're going from this slide?
Yes, I would love to. Hello, everybody. Hello, directors. This year, summer school, I'm super excited about what we have in store for our students this summer. I wanted to just start off and let you guys know what's new this summer, and there's tons to talk about. We've expanded some sessions, and I'll show you that in a next slide. We are centering equity, diversity, and inclusion, and our social emotional learning. That was crucial in our planning of our courses this summer. And we are offering, in addition to our traditional summer school, some enrichment and support opportunities, which is something that we have not done before that I'm really excited about. I think one of the highlights of our summer is the work that is coming about through our Ruskin High School students and our curriculum and enrollment. So let me talk a little bit about the Ruskin High School students. We have decided to offer internships and ambassadorships to our Ruskin students. Interns will work side by side with our administration team in the summer school program, and our ambassadors will work side by side with teachers. So it's kind of a grow your own leaders and teachers for our district, while empowering our students, giving them a voice, and letting them show the skill sets that they have. We've had great success. We've interviewed over 25 students who are interested in that program. And so we're really excited to have them in our schools. So I mentioned before that we have expanded our programming to multiple sessions. So our session 1 will be what we usually have as traditional summer school. So we'll have 2 elementary sites, a middle school site, and a high school site. Kids will come Monday through Friday, face-to-face, for a full day of learning. But then we also added our session 2 in July, and it's a virtual session. And students will be online with students K through 12 from 8 to 4. But we also give them an option of going both. So if students want to do the face-to-face traditional option and the virtual option, they are certainly welcome to do that. And I also spoke about enrichment and support for our students. We added some elective and support classes. We have our enrichment. We have our traditional summer school, we have our virtual summer school, and then we also have an elective course from K through 12. So our students were able to choose from courses that were proposed by teachers. Some of those courses are STEAM courses, language immersion courses, leadership, ROTC, and band. Those non-traditional courses that elementary students aren't able to take, we're offering at this summer. We want to just provide some extra support and some enrichment for our students. And we do have linked on board this summer for before and after care. So we have a lot of programming to choose from. And I can tell you that it's in high demand because we are up to over 1,200 students that have applied to go to summer school.
Thank you, Mrs. Washington, and thank you for stepping up to the challenge. And I think one of the slides here shows the increased number of students we've actually already engaged.
I think we have one more slide.
Yeah, so we'll show that slide as well too. But I wanted to sort of emphasize that we have programs that we've implemented that came from our teachers. So we put out almost like an RFP kind of thing and said, can you come up with a course that you can offer? And people came up with some creative ideas in the science, the arts, technology, and we're able to offer that, and students elected to do those pieces, right? So went around.
And so to add on to what Ray said about our African Studies course, Reagan, one of the priorities as well to make sure that we have diversity and inclusion and social emotional learning. So our course programming included all of those aspects. So we have the gifted education program. We'll have summer school courses. We'll have language for those students who have IEPs and need to continue to work in the summer. We have our ELL students in their language immersion K through 12. They're going to have an opportunity. I'm really excited about the high school because our newest students to the country will have services. We also have translators on board. We had one last year, we upped it to 2, and they are very busy. We have asked principals and teachers to recommend students to summer school so that we don't miss any students, but we just didn't focus on students that needed the extra support. We also asked them to recommend students that needed new challenges. So all of those students are, we're having priority of those students in the summer. We have a middle school curriculum. Well, the interns, Dr. Shipley is mentoring the interns at the high school. At the middle school, we have a coach, Barbie, who is with the that talks about the differences and really incorporates diverse curriculum for our students. And so we're really proud of that. And then last, our social emotional counselors from BAM and WOW. BAM stands for being a man, and WOW is something a woman can remember, right? I'm so excited about it. But they will be on board at the middle school to work with students on social emotional learning. So that's just a few highlights of the summer. But you can see that we really have focused on the whole child, not just one part of the student.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. And your sound is a little choppy at times. So I'm not sure if it's, but I'll try to translate information for you. But I would ask people, you can still go on to sign up for summer school if they see this or they're interested. It's about close. Do you have some ballpark numbers in terms of where we're at this point?
We are at around 1,234 students in the cutoff tomorrow.
Okay, that's impressive.
It is. We got to make sure we have.
So thank you for that. And any comments from the board before we move on?
President. Good job, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll close. And Ms. Washington, thank you once again. But I know that you had a whole team behind you with Ms. Franklin and Ms. Flo and the others who kind of supported you going forward. And so now that you've reached this far, next year you'll have to go even further.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I believe I have the next piece is the financial plan. Ms. Wiltsey, are you online for us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Okay. So we want to, you received a presentation around a financial management system in terms of how we're going to proceed to help the board do the financial monitoring. And today we're going to kind of review just a couple of quick slides, review that, but then we do have our first reports that we want to share with the board. And we're going to have Ms. Wiltsey kind of just go through, how the reports will look so you understand them. So when you see them month to month, then you'll be able to read them and be able to ask the appropriate questions. So you continue to govern the board's financial direction. The last time we talked about some of our obligations in terms of legislation and laws that we've identified and ensure that we are following and complying to any responses we have to do in order to keep our budget and our finance protocols in compliance. We identified and reviewed all the board policies around finance that had an impact, and the board has a fiduciary responsibility, which is gives me, the superintendent, and our staff the power to implement the distribution of the budget and monitoring of that, and then reporting back to the board. So follow that. And then this slide just talked about different opportunities where we're going to continue to develop our level of understanding around how the finance works and how the board can use its oversight ability to steer the district and give us direction around finance. And I'll just break down quickly the financial management system looks like this, right? So the board will continue to look at and develop policies in these three major categories, really, because everything falls into financial conditions and activities, or financial planning and budgeting, and then asset protection, right? I won't go into details and go back through it. And the board oversight actions. So these are some of the actions at the board level, the highest level, that you do in order to keep us in compliance around our financial responsibility. So we do hire an external auditor that does work and sort of reviews our work, that's independent. We have monitoring mechanisms in our business office and at our school levels to monitor that. We have internal reports that go back, and also reports that come to the board. And then there's also direct inspection, in terms of looking at specific things that may be identified by the audit that you will see from the school to kind of identify how we've done that. The layers that we are kind of focused on, the stakeholder review level, we want to make sure that we are accountable to the board, but also our ultimate accountability to the community who put their tax dollars forward. So we're looking at different ways of communicating transparency around how our dollars are being spent and what we utilize them for, and also working with some of our economic partners, such as the state and others who give us the dollars for different reasons. Board monitoring reports. So we've developed a couple of reports that we'll share today that you will see each month, and then there'll be quarterly sort of presentations around what's happening with our financial structure. Those three major category areas that covers everything that we do. And then financial procedures are things that, as administrator, we will implement at our district level to ensure that we're in compliance with the policies and the legislation and other procedures that we need to do. And then lastly, finance documents. We want a paper trail of all the work that we're doing so people can easily review and see how we're spending our dollars and what we're putting through. And I believe that we need to have we do represent our documentation on the board site, but I can see us having a site, a website that has all things finance that people can go to and look through, whether it's financial documents or a line item budget document where you can go through, and a website where you can get information, and we also have capital information on there as well. Talk about that. And then one of the things around monitoring our budget. So there are some legislative pieces that we have to ensure, and there's some significant timelines. So June 30th is a significant timeline where Ms. Wiltie would come to the board if there's any amendments to be done with the budget to close out the year. So you will see a presentation from her in June and say, hey, this is what we did, need a motion to this or that, and then close that out. And that's per statute that we need to ensure that. We've implemented a cycle. So in October, once the year has started, will be the first amendment to the budget, where we come and say, hey, this is what we were allocated, this is what we budgeted for, and this is our status in terms of doing that, and we have to make these changes or whatever. In December, another report will come, but this time we'll have the auditor give us the audit report, should be completed from the previous year at that point, and then we can do some comparison in terms of how we're doing in comparison to previous years. And then a winter check in February, where that'll kind of set us up for the rest of the year to make sure that we close out the year strong and in compliance of all our needs. And yes, you can see those milestones. June, October, December, and February are the big dates, but on a monthly basis, you'll see regular reports in your consent agenda. So did a lot of work on fund balance and what requirements are, and talking with the auditors, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And we developed this tool to help the board to gauge and monitor and give direction around oversight. So one of the things that was clear in legislation and documentation from the DESI level was that when a district is between 0 to 3% fund balance, then it's considered financially stressed. That's the point where the state would intervene, intervention. I won't say clearly what intervention means, but it most likely could mean taking over, right, and doing that, right. So we've created this tool here. I think it'll be helpful for us as we look at our documents each month to see if we're in a red, yellow, or green zone. So 4 to 7% fund balance means immediate action. So therefore, we would come forward to the board and say, hey, we're in 5% on this fund balance. We need to stop hiring, freeze, or whatever actions that's appropriate to curb that downside. Yellow would be a caution, corrective action. It's between 8 and 13%, and we would take action on slowing things down or finding rationale around why we're not getting certain funds, but most likely it's about curbing expenditures and reporting to the board, right? One of the things around the barometer around tax anticipation that should happen in the red zone, I think we're in a pretty good, healthy state. And when I had conversations I asked with our auditors, I said, well, because sometimes even though we're being very conservative in doing a tax anticipation, it doesn't look good when you get an assessment or looking for a bond or something, and they say, why are you asking for anticipation notices? And then we explain them, but it still doesn't match with the numbers. So the red zone is a definite tax anticipation. There may be times when we're in yellow that we might recommend a tax anticipation, depending on what's happening in the landscape. But the place where we want to live is the green zone. So when you see green, you know we're in good shape. 14, 16% fund balance gives us a lot of room, and that's where the board can invest the dollars, put dollars into more student programs, invest dollars into staff compensation, special projects. And one of the things I think we need to do is develop a corporate portfolio. We don't have a portfolio where we have dollars that we can earn higher interest or yield some dollars that we can use for other things later on. So that's a review of that. You do have that, the previous PowerPoint with that, and we'll also put this in the board's packet so you can always review that and help you with your monitoring. So we've got the 3 reports we want to kind of explain, and we'll probably just kind of take this slow in terms of if you have questions, next time we'll talk about it again too. But then you should see it every month and be able to read it based on the metrics we put on there and know what kind of questions you want to ask going forward. So Ms. Dorothy, I'll put up the variance report, and if you, very small. If you want to speak to that, can you see it?
I can't, well, just a little bit bigger. That'll work. Okay, so the first report that you'll see every month is called the Budget Variance Report. And what we've done here are list out what you'll see, and if you scroll down, the first section is revenues. And so on the first line, local resources, basically what makes up the local resources. So you'll see tax revenues, Proposition C, replacement tax, pilots, financial institution taxes, interest, and local, just local funds, local miscellaneous funds, local grants, Cerner, such as Cerner or UMKC, and then you have your student activities and fees. The county resources, railroad and utility tax, and then fines and forfeitures. The state resources, of course, is our basic formula. You have your transportation, classroom trust fund, early childhood special education. Parents as teachers, public placement, high needs fund, CTE base grant, and other miscellaneous state fundings. And then the final one, of course, is the federal resources, which is the Carl Perkins Titles 1, 2, 3, and 4. Comprehensive funds, our Part B IDEA, which is for special ed, ROTC, Medicaid, food service, CARES funding, and other federal grants, such as the Missouri Models District. So this is the revenues as of April 30th. You'll see the budget, what's been budgeted for the local resources at $43.4 million. What's been received as of April 30th is $41.1 million. So there's a variance, or what's still left to be received is $1.5 million. So you'll see that's in green. Then the county resources is budgeted at 1.22, and then we've received in 1.16 of that. And then the variance, let me move my screen here, my little picture, sorry, I can't see. There we go, is $108,000.
We're supposed to just pause for a sec. Can you move the video screen away from the numbers, because people can't see that? Yeah, they can't see the variance side because of the way the screen is set. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, and then the next is the state resources, where we're budgeted at 31 million. Are you hearing feedback? I'm hearing it on my end. I didn't know if you were hearing it on your end as well.
Yeah, you're good enough.
Okay, good. So what we've actually received so far is 25.6 million, so we still are to receive 5.4 million for the rest of the year. And then the federal resources, we budgeted 15.5. As of April, we received 8 million, and so we still have 7.4 million to receive. Now, I highlighted that one in yellow, and normally on a regular report, if something's highlighted in yellow or red, I would be pulling that out and giving a presentation on that, on why we were in that status. And then if you scroll down, I'm sorry.
Before we move, can you explain why it's yellow this month?
Yellow means that we have not received in enough. And what I'm using as my matrix is I'm taking the 15 million, dividing that over 12 months to see where we should be if we'd received in what we were supposed to, and what's still left to be received over the next remaining 3 months, or 2 months, I'm sorry. So that's what makes that the yellow status.
Do you have any concerns that we're not going to receive the 7.4 million?
I will be invoicing for that. Again, I'm hoping in June. I'm still waiting on our final amendments to be approved by DESI, so that should be shortly. And then all of this will be carried over into next year as well. So what's left gets carried over.
So in our process, next month, when we do the report, Ms. Wilson would pull this out and say, hey, this is what's happened to this. We're not gaining because we receive the dollars, or we're still in yellow, got a communication back from the Fed that you're cutting dollars or whatever. At least it will be that way you'll be able to kind of track that. Okay.
Okay. The next section is the expenditure variances, and I have this broken down by categories as well. So you'll see the first is the salary and benefits for all staff. So that's the all district paid salaries, Social Security, Medicare, retirement, health, dental, and life insurance. Purchase services, which is our contracted services, consultants, our travel, transportation, tuition, auditing, legal services, our copiers, water and phone services, property and liability insurance, and other miscellaneous purchase services that come along. Supplies, of course, is our teaching and office supplies, our technology supplies, testing, curriculum, and library supplies. Food service supplies falls under this. Electricity and gas, and then student activities and other supplies and materials. And then capital is buildings and grounds improvements and technology equipment over $1,000 per unit, software over 5,000. You have your instructional equipment over 1,000 per unit, vehicle replacement, and then capital leases and bond funds. And then the last is debt service. And this is just the principal and interest that the district uses to pay off its GO bond debt. So you'll see here it's broken down into the same categories. So you'll see the salary and benefit. We're budgeted at 53.7 million. So far, we've spent 38.7 million, leaving us 15 million to still spend on salaries and benefits for the year. Purchase services is 12.1 million. We've actually spent 6.3, leaving us 5.8 left to spend for the year. Supplies was budgeted at 8.1 million. We've actually spent 3.8, and so another 4.2 to spend for the year. Capital was budgeted at 5.1. We've spent 4.3 of that, which is leaving 840,000 left to be spent. And then debt service is 5.2, and we've spent exactly what was budgeted for debt service, So there is no variance in debt service. And then again, you'll see just the breakdown from before and what the green, yellow, and red means. So that's the variance report. And so we can go to the second report.
So let me just take a.
Oh, yes.
And then just see if there's any questions around the budget variance report. So the red, green, and yellow, and we'll be able to identify the areas and then pull them out if it's in yellow or red to speak to. Okay. Seeing no, you did a great job. There are no questions, so let's move on to.
Okay, and this is the fund balance report. Okay, so you'll see here again the monitoring tool that we use for what is red, what is yellow, and what is green. This is broken down into the operating fund balance. So the operating fund, the district is made up of 7 different funds, and 4 of those funds make up the operating fund balance. So you have your general fund, your teacher fund, your food service fund, and your activity fund that make up the operating balance, which gives you your fund balance. So, and you'll see what each one of the funds are. So your general fund, of course, is your, oh, if you go back down just a little bit, sorry. Your general fund is your classified staff salaries, your services and supplies. Your special teachers fund is just for your certified staff salaries, and we have some instructional tuition. Debt service, of course, is principal and interest for our general obligation bonds. Capital, again, is the buildings and grounds improvements, equipment over 1,000, software over 5. Food service is just all food service expenses. Activity fund are the student activity fees, ticket sales, senior dues, etc. And then the bond fund, and this is used to separate out the bond funds from our capital expenses. So that's a totally separate fund by itself. So this is the operating fund. So you'll see it starts out with the prior year ending operating fund balance. So we ended the year with $10.7 million. We budgeted operating revenue of $76 million for the year, for a total operating revenue of $87 million that was budgeted for. Then the budgeted operating expenditures was $74 million. And then, so the revenues less expenditures is the $13 million . Then we do what we call the capital funds transfer, where we're transferring money from the general fund to capital, and that's $1.3 million. And then, so that gives us a projected ending operating fund balance of $12,067,000, which is operating in surplus.
Thank you. That's great.
And then attached to this, there's another report. It's the Appendix A, and it's the budget summary report, and that's just the report that shows how I received these numbers, and it's broke down by fund. So
I'm gonna stop there, and I'll pull that appendix up if people have it to review. But I think you've done an excellent job of laying the detail out, and people can see we're in a lot of green. The only yellow area is the Fed giving us dollars, and that's always the case, right? Trying to get the dollars that we're owed to, so we'll stay on that. And I'm just.
And I think I forgot to tell what the fund balance was at the very top. I'm sorry. Yeah, the 16.29 is where we ended April, so that would fall in the green section.
So you kind of buried the lead there.
Sorry.
So let me stop there and see if there's any points of clarification for board members. We will have a quiz later on, but any questions?
No questions, but thanks, you did an excellent job on explaining it, and especially since we had an opportunity to review it. Shelley, you've been doing an excellent job of explaining and keeping us in the green. I'm happy for that.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Seeing no questions, I'm gonna move. Oh, yeah, I do want to talk about this. The other piece of the financial management system is around our corporate investments, and I spoke to this slide last time we presented in terms of the actions that we take, because we really want to kind of prepare the board, not just for this year, but start planning for future years to make sure we're on sound financial grounds. Ms. Wiltsey and I had an opportunity to speak with Mosip. We had a conversation. And they're doing analysis, financial analysis for us to see what we might be interested in developing a portfolio. So they're gonna look at banking opportunities, because we can have different bank accounts that we can get, higher interest and also get lending a little bit easier. Investing, there are two different types of liquid and versus the term. Terms are like, you put in for a six-month term or year term, and it depends on the kind of dollars you have, what you want to put in, and liquid is more fluid in terms of higher risk investments. And then finally, credit card, P cards usage and rebates. Many districts, and we have it as well too, they do a lot of charges that go on the corporate card. And if you can get a really good deal on a rebate, you could get hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, depending on how much you spend throughout the year. It's just the same as my partner says, well, look how much I'm saving. If you spend it, you can get more savings. So we would certainly, before we enter into any action around development portfolio, we would bring it to the board and make some recommendations and say, hey, this is what the analysis has been done. This is the dollars we have. We feel comfortable doing this. And the board would have the opportunity to say yay or nay on that. So with that, I just bring the recommendations for the 3 reports. So you will see this in those three reports that Ms. Wiltsey spoke to in the consent agenda, with the exception of if there's a yellow or red, she'll pull it out and we'll do a presentation on it to explain. So we would like recommendations for our first financial reports. So President Townsend, my recommendation is to approve the April 2021 financial report, inclusive of budget variance report, fund balance, and dependencies.
President? I'd like the motion for the approval of the April 2021 financial report, inclusive of the budget variance report, fund balance report, and dependencies. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You gotta vote.
Hey. Cut my screen off. All right, here it is. It's been moved that we recommend the approval of the April 2021 financial report, inclusive of budget variance report, fund balance report, and appendices. Is there any discussion?
President, I have one comment. Shelley, when I came to your office, I think the first week that I was actually got sworn in, I asked to learn the budget. And we sat there for probably about an hour. And I've seen for the last 4 years that I've come to a board meeting, even while I worked in the district, I watched a lot of questions from Mr. Brooks, Mr. Chandler, and a lot of even questions from me. I really commend you and Mr. Obing with making clear, concise, even more than the MSBA, if they're listening, I'm sorry, but a little bit more consensus on allowing us to be able to see the fund balance and actually be able to see where we're at. I thank you for your working on this as well as Mr. Obing. I really do. You just saved us time and energy. That's it.
Okay, seeing no more discussion or comments, we're going to vote on the motion at hand.
Director Hart?
Aye.
Director Coleman?
Aye.
Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Watry?
Aye.
Director Kendrick? Aye. Director Graves?
Aye.
Director Townsend?
Aye.
7-0.
7-0. It's been approved. But the motion to approve the motion has been approved to agree to the recommendation of the superintendent for the April 2021 financial report, inclusive of all budget variance report and fund balance report and expenditures by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Lucy.
All right, the next item is 8.0, community and business partner presentations. 8.1, bond update.
Yeah, bond update. So tonight we have with our usual crew, Justin Durham from Hollis and Miller, Joel Smith, Vice President of Universal Construction, and Marquise Kenyon, who is the one directly responsible for our bond this go around. I turn it over to them. Justin, I'll have you start off. I know you have a short piece, but I'll let you start off and then we'll go to Marquise.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for allowing us to be here tonight. Just to give you guys a quick update, we did get Ruskin High School bid out last month, and we took back all of our base bid items, our alternate items, and that is what is going to be shown here as Marquise does our bond update. But I'm glad to tell you guys that as we sit, we are currently on track with our bond budget overall, and we will share that information with you next month as we start to look at what we're going to accomplish for next year's work as we start in what we'll call phase 3 of our bond project. So that would be Smith Hale Middle School, Santa Fe, and Truman Elementary. So that'll be the next year's work that we have, and we'll share all the bond budget update with you next month.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So as you know, package 1, we've completed that. That was our asphalt and concrete improvement throughout the district last fall. That was right on budget. Packages 2 and 3 were the elementary schools and Ruskin High School. Those came in right at budget as well. So our current GMP for packages 2 and 3 is 21,693,645. Next slide, please. So we were able to start some exterior site work early on some of these elementary schools. What you're looking at here is Dobbs on the north side of the playground. We're putting in a storm drain to help with the water. And so we're 80% complete on doing that. Next step on that is getting some rock down and concrete and safety surfacing of the playground. Next slide, please. Here is Ingalls. We've been able to get a good deal of the water. Again, this is a storm line, so we're trying to deal with the water runoff and direct it somewhere else other than onto your playgrounds for the kids. Currently, we're about 30% complete on that. Next, please. Warford, we've also installed there, and we're getting ready to redo those playgrounds as well. We're approximately 50% with the storm line work, adding drainage for that location as well. Next, please. So last month I told you I would be able to give you a percentage of where we were on MBE participation. At this point, contracts are still out. I did send notices to proceed, letters of intent to get contractors moving on what we call submittals. But I have not received all of those contracts back as of yet. And so right now I'm estimating that we're going to be between 15 and 21% MBE, and that we're going to be between 10 and 15% WBE of minority or diverse participation working on the district's projects. And next month I plan on being able to produce the names of the contractors and what their dollar values are for the board at that time. And I believe that is it for me. Are there any questions?
Present.
Right.
Marky, thank you for saying that. You beat us to the punch.
My pleasure, sir.
So also, just to let you know, all of these, all the sites that we're currently working on are outside, kind of outside where the kids are going to be. And that was kind of the intent. Anything we can do to get started, obviously, that's a great thing. Get ahead a little bit ahead of schedule if possible. So all of these sites, I've coordinated with the principals to make sure that outside where the kids would not be at. A lot of these drainage sites are places where they would not go anyway. So, which is the intent of the drainage, so we can get rid of that so they can play in those areas. So appreciate them starting early and getting some of that work done early on. So principal's been great to work with. They've been incredible. I've been meeting with them almost weekly just to go over, schedules and things like that and going over, next steps. Right now they're packing up. Marquise and I work together on color coding some maps for the principals, saying, here's the areas you need to vacate, get out of the way so we can do demo. And they're like, you bet. I mean, they're so excited about getting some changes in their building. So it's really fun. And so we supplied them with boxes and things like that to pack up their stuff. And then we're helping them move as well. And Universal is helping us supply some laborers to help us in that move as well. So we'll start moving people June 1st, which is, the Tuesday right after Memorial Day. And we got 4 days kind of get things out of the way. And then hopefully June 7th, we'll begin all that demo and construction that we need to get done for this summer. And also, in effect, you'll also see, I've also ordered signs that say your bond work is happening here. Mr. Obing is really excited about those signs. So you'll see those up. We have one per site. They're big wooden signs that have a big banner on them. So we'll put them in strategic locations. We did that not too long ago, and they're already produced, and we already have them. We're just waiting until June 7th to kind of put them up that's when the dirt works begin. So we have them ready to go. We did have to call the locate for all the utilities and stuff, but we've got that taken care of. So we're ready to go. So we're excited. Questions for me?
On those signs, now they're gonna have your picture on it with a hard hat.
Yeah, you bet. We took a picture of Mr. Obing with it. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And I can't say enough about the work that Universal and Hollis and Miller have done in the last 6 to 8 months. It's been pretty intense, and I really appreciate the due diligence and the incredible detail that they've gone through to get this done. So it's been a great partnership for the district. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bickler. Let me take the opportunity to thank Marquise and the team at Hollis and Miller. I know that in the last few months we've kind of pushed you to raise the bar in certain areas, and you've been working really hard to meet the expectations of the board and district and working with Ms. Lucas. So thank you for that, and we look forward to continued success as we move along this bond journey.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to item 8.2, legislative update from State Representative Mark Sharp. Do we have him after that?
No, he's not. Mr. Sharp, are you there?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was on another call and I was trying to get switched over. Thank you, board. Thank you for having me on here tonight. And thank you for your service. I didn't want to take up too much time.
Okay, just hold on 1 second. Can we remove the agenda prompt off there so we can see Representative Sharp? Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you again, Representative Mark Sharp, 36th District. The Hickman Middle School District fits entirely into my House district, and I represent you guys down in Jeff City. And really what I wanted to come on this call today really was to kind of get your input on how we can work closer together next session. I sit on the Elementary and Secondary Education Committee, and am looking to make sure that I am talking with you guys as much as possible on a lot of bad legislation that's coming through that committee. For the most part, I'm getting a chance to be the first set of eyes on some of these bills that impact education and will ultimately impact Hickman Mills. And there's one bill in particular I'm real worried about passing next year that could really be detrimental to the Hickman Mills School District. So really, I just wanted to open it up to you all and see how we can better facilitate communications as we go into next session.
Go ahead, Doreen.
Mr. Sharp, how can we get the word out to the community so they have more information about what this new bills are that they're trying to pass? How can we get the word out? What suggestions would you have? So that we can reach the community. I mean, us as a board, we can only do so much. What, as a legislator, what can you do to reach out to the community so they can be more informed of what's going on in Jeff City?
Well, I have an email that I send out weekly, every Friday, with updates happening in the Capitol, and I try to include as many folks as I can in that newsletter. But however, that's only one email, and I'm only one person. I guess what I was trying to ask is, if I have questions on pieces of legislation, how can I get the opinion of the school district? Right now, I know KCPS and the school district have lobbyists who are there to speak on their behalf. I'm not sure if that's something that we can have in the future, or what that would look like. But I guess what I'm just simply trying to figure out is, if I have questions on a bill and I need Hickman Mills' perspective on it, who should I go to?
Good evening, Representative Sharp. How are you? First of all, thank you for your service. I understand that this is a really hard job that you got, and I know that you are really fighting for us. I just want to first of all say thank you for fighting for, as an advocate for public education for South Kansas City. One of the things I would like to ask of you, as our representative in Jefferson City, is, as you see some of the bad bills that are going across our legislation, I understand what you're asking of us. Before I can answer that question, can you talk a little bit to the board about some of the legislation that you're seeing in particular? I know this year in particular was really, it could have been far worse in terms of charter legislation. It did not happen because Republicans simply couldn't agree between the House and Senate. And so a lot of bad stuff did not go through. And so can you talk a little bit about that? But I know it was helpful for me in the legislature representing some of the school districts and entities, was as a direct connect for issues that related to Hickman Mills. Was the direct connection was the superintendent, because there was no lobbyist per se, because the district as a collaborative, is an agency with the School Board Association. So we work collaboratively with the Association of School Boards. So we don't have a lobbyist like Kansas City. And so I think your best bet is, if you want an opinion about policy as it relates to, as a district, it probably would be best for you to reach out to the superintendent in terms of that. And I know a lot of times the superintendent, both in Center and in Grandview and Hickman Mills, would go and testify. When I was at Jefferson, they would testify on bills as it relates to charter schools and things like that. Because particularly when it comes to charter schools, for Hickman Mills, one charter school, I mean, I can't remember, but one charter school, obviously, we just did the financial update, you just did, Mr. Bean, devastate this district financially, because it would siphon off students from the district. So that would be something that would just be financially devastating. But if you could talk a little bit more in detail about some of the bad charter legislation that you saw and had to fight this legislative session, into some detail for the board that maybe they're not aware of and didn't pay attention as closely as somebody like you and I did this legislative session. And I'm on your weekly report, so I know I read in great detail some of the stuff you wrote about.
Yes, sir. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, and the bill that's on my radar the most, isn't necessarily the charter school bills. It's this public school open enrollment bill that's being labeled as a pro-public school bill, which it's not. My fear is that if this public enrollment or this open enrollment bill becomes law, basically families that have the resources and that are accepted into other school districts, wherever that is, will jettison from the Hickman Mills School District. That is my fear. leaving the Hickman Middle School District with even less people than they, less population than we have now. So that is my very, very biggest fear, and I had to speak out on the floor against that bill because nobody had talked about how it would affect provisionally accredited school districts, especially provisionally accredited school districts. So,
Just so I understand, and for folks who are listening, just so they understand, that could possibly mean, so if you live in, say, Stratford Estates, but you live in our school district and you can afford to go somewhere, you can afford to send your students, you don't want to leave per se in terms of moving, but you can send your student, say, to, say, let's just say Rockhurst, right? And you don't want to send your student to Ruskin. Then essentially the state is footing the bill for that to send them to another, to a private institution, correct?
that is correct.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, if you live in the Hickman Middle School District and Blue Springs accepts your student and you have the willingness and the resources to drive your student to Blue Springs every day, and they will take you. Yes.
So it's essentially kind of like the program that they have in St. Louis. So like if you are in the St. Louis public schools system right now in the city, you can essentially, if you have the means, you can be bused to the county, like in Clayton or Ladue, which is a much more ritzier school district, and you can afford to, if you can afford to get out to the county. But yeah, I agree. I think those are devastating bills, and I think those are bills that we should be very vigilant about. And just so you know, Representative, I know we're all on the emails at this table, but you probably wouldn't be getting those emails. But the Missouri School Board Association sends us an alert every day about legislation that you all are dealing with. They send us legislative alerts as it relates to education. So they were very involved in the charter legislation, and I would get an alert every day about calling my state representative, calling my state senator about a charter bill as it related to public education. So the Missouri School Board Association kept us very up to date.
Okay,
up until probably the day you were voting about an issue. So I don't know if they were speaking to you because they were very involved. So I don't know if they were speaking to you on our behalf, but we are a member of the Missouri School Board Association.
Okay, not as much. They testify in committee all the time, but individually, maybe with COVID, maybe they just haven't been in the building as much. But I appreciate knowing that. And just so the board knows, I'm not sure if everybody knows this. I grew up in Hickman Mills. I went to Truman. I went to Irvin. I graduated from Hickman. Protecting and keeping Hickman Mills School District safe is one of my main priorities as a legislator down there. So if there is anything that I can be doing more of, or anything that you would like to ask of me, I want to make myself fully available to the board and to the district to make sure that we are, that I am lobbying and fighting for the things that need to be fought for down there.
Representative Sharp, this is Superintendent Bank. Thank you so much for continuing to advocate for our district. Now, in terms of a call to action around some of these, I'm appreciative of our relationship in terms of communication around what's happening. We'll continue to cooperate around those pieces. And I'm wondering around board level calls of actions. I know in some of the previous bills and things like that, there have been school boards who kind of penned the letter and made resolutions. Just sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't help. But that would be some kind of guidance that we would appreciate if there's something that you think that if the board as a group developed a resolution around a particular action that we could send to the legislation to support anything that's happening at that level. What are your thoughts on those kinds of calls of action?
Okay, well, I think me and you are going to be working real closely. It sounds like this next session. I'll still be on the education committee, and I look forward to working with everybody on this board to let them know what good's coming and what bad's coming, so we can get our talking points together and see how we can make sure that Hickman Mills is being left alone.
President, Director. Hey, Mark, this is Cecil. First, sorry for not responding to your email. I saw that you had sent me something in regards of I had a thought written out and I didn't send it to you. But the other aspect is the district co-op. As far as the representatives, I know that in our last dinner we had with the co-op, their representative was able to kind of give us the format of what we're going to be looking at in the next year. Have you had a chance to touch base with them or the representatives that are often in Jeff City?
No, but we do have a technical session this coming Tuesday, and I'll be down there having a meeting with the speaker, and hopefully I can get some kind of an idea of some big ticket legislation that we're going to be seeing next year, and hopefully I can get a chance to talk with the chairman of the Education Committee and see specifically what bills he's eyeing at hearing as soon as we start next year.
Okay, because the co-op does have lobbyists, and as we are a part of that co-op, and they also lobby for us. So in that aspect, we should be able to. I would like to think the superintendent and yourself will be able to kind of sit down and have a meeting, as well as probably our board president, and kind of get these things mapped out. I appreciate your due diligence with this, though. I promise to do better.
I'm not sure if you were referring to Mr. Chris Ropey.
Yes.
With the KCPS, I see him very often. So he's done a very good job of keeping all of us KC reps in the loop with any movement with bills and any changes with bills.
It's not him, but I need to. I'm been sitting here searching through my emails trying to find the actual agenda from our last dinner to try to give you some names, but I'll get that to you. So you can know who the person was.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, to kind of close this out, Mark, this is President Townsend. I would like to extend an invitation to you to come back and speak to the board at any time. I'm letting everyone know that if Ms. Robin comes to me and say, hey, Representative Sharp wants to speak, I'm already saying, yes, you don't even have to ask me, just put it on the agenda as far as the board's concerned. So, till the next time we hear from the man from Jackson, we'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
Take care.
And I also want to just congratulate you, Mark, on getting the Negro League license plate bill passed. That's a big congratulations to you. So.
Thank you, good sir. Thank you. That was a big accomplishment. Thank you. Buck O'Neill would be happy.
Okay.
I will just remind the board they can speak into the mic. We've had some communication issues that people cannot hear.
Okay, we're down to 9.0 consent items. Does anyone have any issues with any of the consent items? No. No issues with the consent items. So, the consent items is approved by an unanimous consent. So.
He can do names. He can do it now. He can do it now. He can do your name as consent. Nobody has an issue.
I didn't approve all of this.
You have an issue?
Yeah, I didn't want to approve. I didn't want to approve.
Oh, okay. There was some disapproval. Okay.
If Ms. Carter can speak into the mic, I did not.
Oh, I didn't approve the bills to be passed. So I was speaking on my behalf.
Please bring your mic closer to you.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
A little louder.
Just President Townsend, just in terms of processing, I think your initial question was, were there any items to be moved? So if there's a director that wanted an item that they wanted to speak to, then they would have to address that item, and then we would do the consent and then address that item on its own.
Okay, so I thought we were approving the bills. Sorry, I might have jumped in. That's what I thought we were doing.
So you would like the bills to be That's what he was asking.
Okay, so I thought we just said, we were gonna take a vote on it.
So, just for clarification, uh, Director Carter, the consent items, the president asked if there were any objections to any of the consent items. If you do not want to pass those consent items, then what you'll want to do is move, ask for whatever item you have an issue with to be moved off of the consent calendar. And then you all can vote to approve the rest of the consent calendar and then address whatever issue you have with that one item.
It's 8.2, the request for the bill. I didn't have enough time to.
Okay, so that's the one you want to
Yes.
remove? She wants 8.2. So technically, I think we would have to go back and I would have to ask. Someone would have to move that we reconsider. Right.
Director Townsend, you can, with the consent calendar, any director can ask for an item to be moved off of the consent calendar before it's approved. So if you just move that item off of the consent calendar, it's gonna go into regular discussion, and then you can pass the consent calendar with everything else that's left.
But I already announced that it was approved by unanimous consent. So wouldn't we have to go back and reconsider that? It's already been read into the record.
All right, so if you want to do it that way, because you've already done that, you can do that. I mean, I think we're still in the discussion, and so that wasn't clarification. Director Carter was asking for clarification, so I don't think it's unacceptable to move that item out and just approve the consent calendar without that item, and then give her the opportunity to address what she wants to address with that one item. And then you all would take a vote on the one item.
Okay, excuse the attorney. I have a question because I can remember there was something on the agenda that I wanted to discuss, and they told me that the agenda had been approved, so we couldn't do that. So that's why at the beginning of the agenda, you look at the agenda and you see, what you want on, because I tried to do that and it was no, because we had already approved the agenda. So I really need clarification.
Okay.
I don't have an issue with everything
I can
except
help you with that.
But I just need clarification.
I can help you with that. MSPB would say that you would have to do it at the beginning of the business, or at the beginning of the approval agenda. Robert's rules say you can do it at any time. So that's the kind of the battle. So in our bylaw, our policy said we use Robert's rules, therefore Robert's rules would be the rules that we use. Even though the MSPB may
that can be clear to all board
recommend
members,
something
and
else.
I'm okay with that, but it has to be one or the other.
Yes.
And all board members need to be
Yeah.
aware of that, so.
President, I can help.
Excuse me, I'm still talking to
Oh,
you.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I'm just wanting to get clarity on that, so whatever we decide, as long as everybody knows that that's not something. Thank you, I'm done, Mr.
I apologize. President, so, in an incident, to provide clarification, an incident that took place at the last meeting where it was motioned and seconded. So that's why we couldn't take it up, because there was no discussion in the aspect of the motion that was presented on the floor and seconded, and there was no discussion. Now, you stated that we were under a unanimous consent. Based on Robert's rules, we're still kind of muddling through that right now. So in that aspect, she's able to motion to have it removed from the consent item because no motion has come up. And yeah, because anybody can motion for anything, but in the aspect that it's not on being the fact that the item is on the agenda, that it does not require a majority. It just requires a simple majority. If that helps.
Just one comment, for the entire board. I guess, I know that the board executive is looking at an opportunity to have the Robert's Rules expert go through with the board, and the board can decide on what the common practice is. I think we're probably getting a bit of a transition in terms of people practicing one thing, and then we have some new changes that will probably be incorporated once the board has finalize that. The challenge is that President Townsend is in a quandary because of the opinions of the two different entities. But I think I'll offer this to you, Ms. Carter. If your item is just information, I'd be happy to speak to you after the site or get the appropriate staff member to give you clarification. If it's something more significant, then I guess it would be to the board to decide how to proceed.
So,
you want to talk to the items and you want to support? Okay.
okay,
What is the item?
8.2.
8.2. Or 9.2. It's 9.2. It's now 9.
It's 9.2 because they amended it.
So we need to make a motion.
Right.
Actually, you don't need to take a motion to pull it off. Any director can ask for item to be pulled off, and it just gets pulled off. So now you've got a consent calendar that doesn't include 9.2.
All right. Do we have any other items? Anyone wish to pull off the consent agenda? Any more items? Okay.
President, for my clarification and notes, we're requesting to move 8.2 to discussion items.
Yeah.
You want to read the title of 8.2 so everyone knows it's right?
8.2/9.2.
Right, what's the title?
Request the board approval of the April 2021 bills will be moved to the end of the agenda, end of business. Okay, let's do a roll call vote on consent items.
Director Carter? I'm sorry, please speak to the mic. Aye. Director Coleman? Aye. Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Watry?
Aye.
Director Kendrick?
Aye.
Director Graves?
Aye.
And Director Townsend?
Aye. Okay, it's been approved. The consent item's been approved by voters. The consent items minus 9.2 requested board approval of the April 2021 bills been approved with a vote of 7-0. Okay. New business.
Good evening again. I have item 9.1, requested approval relative to the changing of the graduation requirements. If the tech team could click on that and bring that, thank you very much. Tonight I'm sharing with you a recommendation to adjust the Hickman Mill C-1 School District's graduation requirements from 26 total credits to 25 total credits. On the screen in front of you, you will see that we have done an analysis of other school requirements as well as those requirements of the state of Missouri. There are two particular areas in which HMC1 is out of alignment. This is the required math credits and the required PE credits. So you will see there on the left-hand side of your screen, our current requirement for math is 4, and our current requirement for physical education is 1.5. If you go to that middle column where the red boxes are, you can see that our recommended change is to adjust math to 3 and adjust PE to 1, making a total of 25 credits to graduate. In comparison to the state of Missouri, you can see that we're still 1 over the state requirement. So the state requires 24, we would require 25. You could see that this would then put us in alignment for math. We would require 3 along with the state. And we would require 1 PE along with the state requiring 1. On the right-hand side, you have the comparison chart of our area districts. So that first column represents each of the area school districts and the number of math credits required. The only two in the area that currently require 4 math credits, which is above the state minimum, is us and Grandview. If you look in the middle column, PE, same thing, 1.5 credits, whereas all of our other surrounding districts all require 1. You can also see there on the far right-hand column where it says total number of credits to graduate, that 25 would put us right in the middle. Again, the state requirement is 24, and you can see some of our neighboring districts do require 24. Most of them require 25, and then there are a couple of us at the 26 mark. As you all know, graduation rate is one of the standards that DESE uses for our accreditation status, and we are recommending the approval of this change as it helps to remove any unnecessary or additional barriers that might exist to ensuring our students' successful completion of high school. Lastly, as we continue to expand opportunities for our students to participate in real-world learning programming and off-campus programs and internships and certification programs, the reduction in graduation requirements will provide more flexibility for our students to be able to participate in these programs. The superintendent recommends approval of the change of graduation requirements to 25.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. Recommendations presented to the board?
Let's wait until the rest of the directors come back.
I have a question.
Okay, Director.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the difference between that 4 and the 3? What are we taking away from the students for the math? What's that one?
So currently, all freshmen take Algebra 1, all sophomores take geometry, and all juniors take Algebra 2 or an accelerated like college algebra course. That 4th credit is an elective. So it's completely up to the students choosing and their ability of whether they take a consumer math class or they would take a pre-calculus. We certainly will still continue to encourage college-bound students to take a 4th year of math, which is what we do with science and social studies that are currently at 3. That's correct.
So is that usually the 4th year math, is that usually the math class that is usually like a college accredited math?
Just depends. About half of our students are currently in what we call a college prep class. So that's kind of like the step in between. About a quarter of our students are in a dual credit class like you talked about. And then another quarter are in kind of a remedial type class. We did look at some data at our current senior class, and we have out of our class of about 270 students this semester, we had 44 seniors who were doubled up or tripled up on math credits this senior year because they had been unsuccessful in one of those first 3 years. So they were having to repeat a class and get their 4th credit. So again, just about providing some additional flexibility for those students that maybe are not looking for a dual credit opportunity, but we'll still continue to offer all of those classes.
Is that something we would offer possibly in the summer so they wouldn't have to double up?
We do offer that. Some of them choose not to take a summer class.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The motion that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent to adjust the graduation credits from 26 to 25.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that we take the recommendation of the superintendent to change the credits from graduation requirements from, as you said, 26 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Give me a vote.
Director Carter? Aye. Director Coleman? Aye. Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Watry?
Aye.
Director Kendrick? Aye. Director Graves?
Aye.
Director Johnson?
Aye.
Thank you, board.
Been approved by a vote of 7-0 to take the superintendent's recommendation to reduce the number of credits from graduation credits from 26 to So now, okay, this is 10.2 would be, the old 9.2 would be 10.2 now. Yes, this is when we talk about the bills. Yes. Item number, yeah, 9.2. Payable bills.
That's you,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
9.2 is moved down to the end of the agenda.
It's been moved to discussion items, 11.3.
This may be moving to 11.3. Okay. Let's go with discussion items, future board meetings for the 21-22 school year. Currently we're on the third, we have third Thursday as our board meeting. Fourth Thursday as our work session. I guess the questions at hand are, do we want to continue with the work sessions on the calendar, or we just want to go with one meeting?
President, I think the determination of having a working session for that month is based on your superintendent's discussion as far as if we cover everything in the open session. So it's working session as well as, I think, working session as well as any committees assigned to you were made ad hoc. So it's at your discretion. It's up to you.
Well, I just want to get board input. So, I believe that we should go to the committee. We should do away with the working session and do our working committees. So I guess if I need since this isn't an actual issue, I'm gonna need a motion.
For clarification, you would need a motion requesting that we discontinue having working sessions permanently, so they're not even ad hoc, and go to substantiated. Well, I'm asking for clarification.
Yeah, that would be the next step.
And then making a motion to go into having substantiated committee assignments. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that the board knew what you're asking.
I guess I'm not. So we will be keeping the working session as needed. Or we just get rid of them altogether.
The work would be done in the committees. So for instance, if there was an issue that comes up, it will go to committee, say, Mr. Whitley has something on buildings. It would go to facility committee. The facilities committee would take get all the information from Mr. Whitley, get all the public input, study the issue, come back with a recommendation to the full board, give the recommendation to the full board, and then answer any of the board's questions on that issue.
President, oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
No, I was just gonna say, I had a motion, so whenever you were ready, I just had a motion to make, so.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Technically, you don't have to do anything at all. Like, even in the aspect of motion, we wanted to discontinue working sessions, you just don't have to schedule it. And if you wanted to make committee assignments based on the fact that ad hoc, you could make, so we can make a motion here, or we can just do nothing. And
it falls straight to me.
yeah, because you're the president.
If the board is wanting to give me that power.
It's in our policy. No, it's in our policy.
But then that's what we'll go to committee structure. But we still need to find a date that we're going to meet on.
For
the regular meeting.
So, pardon me, Mr. McGee is trying to say something.
Go
I
ahead.
want to make sure he says.
Well, I was just gonna say, my motion was gonna give some structure, to committee structure, and that's what I was just saying, that way we get to give, you can still do your thing as the president, it's your deal, but I was just gonna give some construct to have you, to at least provide some of the committee structure, so that was up to you, so.
We'll take that up after, just figure out what day we want to meet on, and then we'll go.
Okay.
That way we'll stay within the agenda.
President Council, are you referring to the date of the open session, or are you referring to the dates of the committees?
The open session.
Okay, so,
Do
can
you
I
want to
ask?
stay here?
Yeah.
Or do we want to?
I want to ask, like, what's the argument to move what is the argument to move the date? That's my inquiry to you.
You know what, I would like to move the date to Tuesday. There has been a communication about, missing board. I have some things that I do on Thursday. It's up to the board, but I have 2 meetings that are on a Thursday. They're not necessarily on every Thursday that we meet, but, I would like to move it. Whatever we do, we vote on it. So it's not a Carol Graves thing. The board votes on it. So whatever decision is made, it has to be, at least a 4-3 vote. Hopefully it's 7-0.
Yeah. I'm just asking for clarification.
President, I just need clarification. I thought we was talking about committees, and then we jumped to changing dates. So
Well,
I need to know what exactly.
yeah, what we're on is dates for the meeting. And what the director asked was to get clarification for the whole.
And we generally meet
situation.
on what, first and third Thursday, right?
No.
The third
Thursday.
Mhm.
So, and we're discussing moving it to Tuesdays? Is that my understanding?
That's one possible scenario.
Can I ask a question?
Why would we be moving it?
Can I ask a question? Not from you, but from, who's the longest staff member that's been here? Come on down, Mr. Clymer, can you come down to the podium where the price is right? As far as, the only reason why I'm asking this question is that you have.
This is not appropriate.
Is it not appropriate?
This is not appropriate.
Oh, okay, this is not appropriate. Okay, then, this is the question in which I'll refer to you. So have you been able to address with your staff or have made any accommodations for moving the date of this board meeting in order to ensure that you're prepared for these board meetings?
Well, no, because we haven't decided on a date yet, so
Okay.
we're currently practicing with the status quo. So the board decides to, and it's the board's prerogative to do that, so we would comply with whatever the board. Decide.
But what I will request, I will make a motion that we table the issue until the president is able to meet with the superintendent so that the superintendent can go through it with his staff to ensure that us changing the date, even though it changes the date for us, it may change the date as far as how we receive information as well as the people who are participating within this within this board meeting. We have families and shareholders who have known this tentative date for over 6 to 7 years. And if we're gonna change the date, I wanna make sure that they're able to be aware and aware of the process of how we will do things with the date change. That makes sense.
Can I just add, just for the board's information, that whatever date the board decides, the staff will comply with that date. The only thing I would ask is that it starts for the accounting year, starts not, that gives staff enough time to make any arrangements if there is. But we would comply with whatever direction the board decides, you know. I usually get my hair done on Thursday night.
President, well then I would ask that we table the issue to August.
Can I add?
I agree with you. I don't think we should move schedule because of one individual or somebody. I believe we need to focus on our community. We've been doing this on every Thursday, which we all have schedules. Sometimes I have things I can't do on Thursdays, but we arrange those. And I think that we should just keep it the same way we've been having it on a Thursday. This is what our community sees every Thursday. They're expecting us to be here. Everybody has a schedule, but like I said, I figure we need to keep it on a Thursday. Just my opinion.
President, go ahead.
Please, I just want to, let me just say this. I'm the longest sitting board member on here. The board president can change the date by his or her prerogative. 6 years ago, when Dr. Carpenter was here and we had the board meeting, one of the questions came up is, does the board and the board president want to change the date? It's up to the board president. It's not up to one individual, but he or she can change that date. Many of you all, I mean, sometimes we do some things that we think are right that are not, but the board president has that prerogative. I don't have that prerogative. And it's not, excuse me, I'm speaking, Judge Judy, I'm speaking. And so I wanted to be clear, you know, that the board president can make that decision. And it doesn't have to be the decision that I ask about, but they can make that decision that I don't think we should be in conflict about. Maybe it hasn't been made definite today, but it is his or her decision, whoever the board president is. So I just want to say that, because I don't think everybody knows how some of these things should really go.
Okay, all right. Just a point of information real quick. You brought up Dr. Carpenter. When we first did the work sessions that were done on the Wednesday previous the board meeting, then it were moved to the week after the board meeting. So dates have changed. So adjustments, you know, don't just let him.
Clarification, President Thomas, are you asking for a discussion from the board? Or are you recommending a date and asking for the board to endorse that date? Are you making a motion to move to Tuesday, or are you just, is this an open conversation around the date?
All right.
And just as a point of clarification, just so you know, your board policy says that you're going to have your meetings on the third Thursday of each month at 6:30 at the administration center, unless otherwise specified, in a publicized notice of the meeting. So until you all take action to amend your board policy, by policy you've indicated that you're going to have your meetings on the third Thursday at 6:30.
So, what would be asking for an amendment for the policy?
That's what
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we would be doing.
And this would take an action of the board. The board would need to vote on a new meeting day.
And I just need to, I mean, maybe this need to be discussed, because, you know, I decided to go back to school, so I'm in class on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So up and changing the schedule, because I anticipated that I was gonna be meetings on Thursdays. So that's why I picked my classes accordingly. So I can't go back to the university and say, well, I can't come now. I don't know how to pay for my money. So I think we have to take in consideration of that as well. You know, staff may have other options, other things that they're doing throughout the week. But again, board member, I can't change my schedule because I'm at school now. So school, I've already enrolled in those classes.
So, let me get this straight. The only day you're available is Thursday.
Currently, right now, yes.
President Townsend, so we don't take up any more time with the issue, because I know that this item is like, just has 20 minutes to it. What I'm requesting, because I pulled my previous motion. And what I'm asking for is, I'm making a motion to table this issue till July, pending a possible survey of a survey, or commissioning the superintendent to survey the community, or those who do actually come to these meetings and ask their request that the board changes the date. As these are taxpayer dollars, and I want to make sure that they have a way to be able to have a say on when they get this information, especially if it's already set in stone in policy. That's a motion. It's a motion, so it will require a second if anybody wants to.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we table.
We table this discussion item until July, pending your availability to talk to the superintendent, with the emphasis of possibly commissioning the superintendent to take a community survey. That's the motion.
Community survey.
Regarding the date of board meeting.
Okay.
And it's been seconded.
And it's been seconded. So let's take a vote on it. I mean, there's get some discussion on it. Do we want a survey? Any discussion? No discussion, let's take a vote on it then.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Pullman?
No.
Director McGee?
No.
Director Washington?
Aye.
Director Kendrick?
Aye.
Director Graves?
No.
Director Townsend?
No. So let's get back to that motion's defeated. You have to come up with some other.
Clock's ticking on this.
No, I'm just calling the question in terms of, President Townsend, are you making a motion to the board for an alternate date, or are we pushing this off to another date for discussion? And your question, I think, that you posed is moving board meetings from Thursdays, but you weren't sort of clarifying exactly what the date was.
Well, as the parliamentarians / attorneys told us, we would have to do a policy change amendment. So
I would want to put another motion on the floor, If you put nothing on the floor, then the date stays on at the third Thursday. And this issue moves off, move on. So, if there's a motion someone wants to put forward, I think that would be appropriate.
Right. President?
Yes.
I think my question is, in the previous conversation we were having, right, in this issue, we were talking about committees. If you were to establish committees, you could actually establish a policy committee so this can be addressed thoroughly. Just offering.
No, I mean, that is Plan B. If this dies, that is Plan B.
Just trying to help.
And then
or unless someone comes with a motion to say that, unless someone suggests a motion that I create a committee to look at this policy, and
I just have a question. So what would be the urgency to move from the third Thursday? Could we do it second Thursday, fourth Thursday, the first Thursday? So I mean, as long as it's on a Thursday, I'm good, cause I have class, so could we move it on to the first Thursday, second Thursday?
Not first Thursday,
Okay.
second Thursday. Second Thursday's fine. I mean, not second Thursday, first Thursday's fine, I'm sorry, I got them backwards.
Yeah, I mean, Thursdays, I mean.
Thursdays are fine with me.
First Thursday's fine. First Thursday's fine? Well,
Put
then
it
I
on
would need a,
Thursday, we're not.
I would need a motion before the 20 minutes.
Well, I moved that, a motion that we, move our meetings to first Thursday.
Can I just point of order?
We would have to amend the bylaw.
We're looking, you have to amend the policy. The policy says third Thursday. So either you're gonna, and I'm not sure if I'll refer to the, council, if it takes 1 or 2 readings of a change of our policy. So that means you have to refer to yourself or a group to come back with a recommendation and then vote on it.
Right.
Our policy does require a first and second read. You all can act without doing that, you know, if you, no, I don't think it requires 2/3, but, your policy says that you should have a first and second read on a policy change.
Okay.
That will get forward to the public when the chapter knows. So do that. That's fine.
So are you wanting a motion to
I was
change the policy?
I was agreeing with Director Kendrick. I was saying because that solves the transparency issue that Director Wytry spoke about. Because by the second reading, then that gives the public and everybody notice, because by then you're in July, I think, by the second reading. So.
Okay. So it's.
I did.
Yeah.
So we need a motion to amend the policy.
Yes, and then you have to read it again next month.
To amend the policy,
Yes.
the name of the
Board policy.
Board policy,
The policy is policy BDA.
policy BDA.
No problem.
BDA, to move the date to open session meetings to possibly first Thursday instead of the third Thursday. To review the policy.
In your second, correct?
Please?
Yeah, are you second?
Oh, yeah, I can. Is there a second?
All right. See how easy that was? All right, it's been properly. All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we amend board policy BDA to move the date of open session to the first Thursday from the third Thursday.
Moved and second, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought that we were doing this as a first reading to a policy change. So at this point, all you're doing is just introducing your first reading to a policy change. You don't need to vote on this.
Okay.
Okay.
For just a first read. I don't want to complicate this, but does this need to be written and posted?
No, you don't have, no, you do not. You do not, no. They can introduce a first policy change, and present it at the next meeting for a second reading. I'll confirm it.
Okay. All right, got that out of the way. Committee structures. I need to get a motion. Mr. Director. All right.
Yes, rescinded.
Yes.
You made a motion.
For what?
She made a motion. You said it. So that's on the books. So that in order to get it off, she has to take it back.
Yeah.
She's writing down minutes right now. So as far as what she's got right now, it's just a motion. So you have to take it off.
What Mr. Watson, what the director is saying is, once I read it, it's in the minutes, you must, in order to take it off, you definitely have to, you have to move to rescind it. He is correct. So we have to.
I would like to rescind my motion. No, I'm not understanding what I'm doing.
Yeah, basically.
You made a motion, it was seconded, it was marked in the minutes. We decided that we're not going to move forward with the vote, especially based on the council that came from, based on the council that was given to us. Therefore, you, after hearing council, and we deciding that we're not voting on it, right, you are rescinding your motion so we can move forward with the agenda. All you're just saying is, I take my motion back, and we
Yeah.
keep the party on.
I'm going to give examples. Basically, we had a question out there that needed to be answered.
Okay, and I apologize, I was wrong, superintendent is right, it does need to be in writing. I apologize. So you all are not gonna be able to do this policy revision, today, you're gonna need to bring it forward at the next meeting. My apologies.
I pull my motion.
Does anyone have any objection to the director pulling her motion? All right, by unanimous consent, our motion is pulled.
No, can I just?
We're gonna rewrite it and read it for the first time at the next meeting. All right. Committee structures. Right.
I had a motion. I move that we establish the following standing committees, to replace the monthly board, work sessions. I move that we establish a finance committee, facilities committee, curriculum instruction and accountability committee, and a policy committee.
Yeah, and could you speak again?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I move that we establish committees to replace the monthly board work sessions, the following standing committees to replace the board work sessions to be the finance committee, facilities committee, curriculum instruction and accountability committee, and the policy committee.
I second.
Right, it's been properly moved in second that we replace the work sessions with 4 standing committees, being finance, curriculum instruction, policy, and
I did not catch that.
facilities.
It's finance committee, facilities committee, curriculum instruction and accountability, and the policy committee.
There's four committees.
Yeah, 4 committees.
Curriculum instruction / accountability.
Yeah.
For clarification.
So, President?
Yes.
As we're going into discussion, right?
Yes.
Okay. With the 4 committees, it's looking like 2 members with either 2 members only serving 1, with the other 5 members serving 2. That will members of these committees be asked to serve more than 1 committee, or even 3, or will you be kind of evenly distributing it amongst the 4? Because the number odd to even would mean that somebody would have to do some more.
Yeah, there will, couple of directors would be asked to work on a couple committees. All directors would be able to attend all committee meetings. So.
The only reason why I'm asking is because it's kind of the same issue that I had last year, where we had 3 committees and we couldn't get 7 members to serve on all those committees, which is the reason why we ended up going into the work session. What I'm just trying to do is make sure that we don't get to that place where we get stuck where the committees don't happen because we don't have quorum within those committees, or people are not able to adhere to those because we're talking 4 other dates. And 4 of the dates, we just spent about 25 to 30 minutes talking about one.
Yes, the committee chairs will set their own dates on when they will meet with Ms. Martin.
God bless them.
Each committee may not meet each month based on their need.
Okay, I just want a clarification to that to make sure that
The chairs will have their own
okay.
ability to set their calendars.
Thank you, sir.
President Tom, can I have the board consider that this be a item in the board retreat, and that implementation comes after finalized conversations around expectations for the committee? Consideration.
Ms. McGee, you're in charge of the board retreat.
I mean, they can be on the agenda, but we can vote on tonight.
Yeah,
We can,
yeah, but we can have the conversation.
Yeah, we can have the conversation, right? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So I would actually need to have a director make a motion.
We already made the motion.
We're gonna put it on it. Oh, well, you're right. We don't need a motion for that. Actually, we are still in the motion for the committee structure, right? Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. We're in discussion. Is there any more discussion?
President, I'd like to call the question.
Is there any, one disagree with calling the question? All right, so unanimously, this is through unanimous consent, the question is called. All right, question is, it's been moved and seconded that we substitute, replace board work session with committees that consist of finance, curriculum and accountability, policies, and facilities. Can we take a vote? Yes, sir.
Director Hart?
Aye.
Director Coleman? Aye. Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Watson?
Aye.
Director Kendrick? Aye. Director Gray? Director Johnson?
Aye. 7-0. All right, it's been approved 7-0 that we replace work sessions with finance, curriculum instruction, facilities, and policy committees. All right. Future agenda items, board governance. Director, would you like to speak on that? Oh, okay. All right, could you pull up the bills, April bills?
I think I just had questions. When I went through the bills, there were certain things that I didn't understand, so I wanted to make sure before voting on it that we were explained about it. Some of the things that I seen about North KC schools who paid out, when they pay out, and I didn't know what that was about. I seen Amazon Business, I seen one to Lee Summit School District, Clinton County, I see Dick Smith Ford, I see Coles Wholesale, I see Aroma Bakery, Sam's Club. There were different things I seen on these bills that we paid out, and I wanted it to be explained what it was before approving it. Because like when I was looking at North Kansas School District and stuff and things like that, I didn't know what that was. Or basically, so I just wanted to see if we can get a breakdown of some of those bills.
I'm sorry, I could not hear the question.
I'll read for Ms. Wiltie, just to let Director Carter know that there's 978 lines.
Well, no, those are the specific ones, but
Yeah.
we can discuss it.
You want an overview of what the bills are about?
Yeah, like the North Kansas, like the different ones in school districts outside of here. I didn't know what those
So
were.
I'll summarize for Ms. Wiltie and see if we can capture what. Ms. Wiltie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the question is about the bills. We've got pages and pages of bills, and so the director would just like to get a general overview in terms of some examples around what we're paying for bills, specifically around when we're paying other school districts. What are some of the reasons why we be paying other school districts through billing and for something else?
The other school districts are possibly either taxi transportation that's being split for homeless transportation, or it's for instructional tuition for students that belong to Hickman Mills but are going to another school district, or vice versa. And we receive checks from other school districts as well. But the homeless billing split 50-50 between districts. Does that help?
Well, there's a lot of this. There's a lot of, and I know Deputy Superintendent Skinner can speak to this as well too. Because I see bills that come across that have to do with special ed needs, and we have students in other districts for programs and things like that. And some of the costs is mostly outlined might be around transportation for transporting those kids. So there's a variety of things, unless you had a specific items you want us to come back to you with. But there's a range of partnerships we have, and other school districts pay us as well too for things.
That's what I was really looking at, the different school districts.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, because you say, well, why are we paying another school district, right? But there's lots of partnerships and they pay us dollars as well too. So thank you for that. Thank you, Ms. Wiltie.
You're welcome.
President. Yes, Director. Ms. Carter. I'm only asking, are you satisfied with your answer?
Yes, I am.
Okay. President, I'd like to make a motion for us to approve this.
I second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. We approve the bills for April 2021.
Director Carter?
Aye.
Director Coleman? Aye. Director McGee?
Aye.
Director Watry?
Aye.
Director Kendrick? Aye. Director Grace? Aye. Director Townsend?
Aye.
7-0.
Approved. 7-0 that we pay the bills for April 2021.
Thank you,
Now-
board.
Thank you. All right, now we're down to 12.0. Slash 12.2.
President, I want to make sure we point it out. I know that one of our hot topic is accreditation. I always want to make sure that we're adhering to what we can do as board members, and the aspect of board governance being one of the precipitating factors of our accreditation. So I know that you were able to have correspondence with Desi, and I wanted us to be able to convey that correspondence so that our shareholders know that we are aware and making improvements towards improving our governance to ensure that we seek accreditation on our part. So what I did was if you could pull up the item that's under board governance, 12.1 or 11.1 as I'm looking at the screen. So in this email, and I'm not gonna read it verbatim because I think we all spent a lot of time here. But in this aspect, pulling to the first question, does individual board members intend to play a role in the accreditation process?
Missouri Board Association, says that the expectations are determined locally. So like in the aspect of either policy, procedural aspects, being able to be here. And I was gonna ask to scroll down, but it's on my screen. Hold on. Okay. Just asking that as this is a part of one of MSIP's 5 guidance documents. So like the aspect is that the local board of government, as this is the response you got, Board of Education and district leadership in collaboration with the community use quantitative data, qualitative data, and evaluations results to create a written board-approved CSIP, which drives improvement in student learning and guides the overall improvement of the educational programs and services. Now, CSIP, for what most people don't know, is pretty much our 5-year strategic plan. Within our 5-year strategic plan, it states a lot about what we're doing in regards to student achievement and the next steps. With that, tied to this email, tied to also the first 100-day entry plan in which the superintendent had laid out, I wanted to ensure and reaffirm our due diligence as board members to ensure that we will be following our strategic plan, make sure that we have the information that we need to make good decisions and to ensure that our attendance allows us to be able to make those decisions. I know that there's a lot of precipitating factors that come into what we do to keep accreditation, but I want to assure the public that we, as board members, are doing our part. That's all I had.
Motion to adjourn. Got a motion to adjourn? Second. No, we're still on, well, who knows? All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Second. It's been moved in second. Is there anyone wishing not to adjourn?
Sure, I'd love to stay here, but no, I'm afraid not.
Seeing no one seriously. All right, we adjourned at 9:18.